Good morning, children. Today we learn the poem The Worm. That's lesson 2.3 on page 37 in your textbooks. Please keep your pencils ready to mark the figures of speech and the meanings. Now, this poem, The Worm, is a sonnet. A sonnet is a poem made up of 16 lines, generally 4 stanzas or 4 lines each. So, if you look at the poem, it has 4 different stanzas and each stanza has 4 lines in it. Now, and generally, you don't have more than 10 words on a line in a sonnet. You may have around 8 to 10 lines in each line. Okay, let's start the poem. Turn thy hasty foot aside, nor crush that helpless worm. The frame thy scornful looks deride, required a god to form. Now the first line, turn, the word turn is repeated for poetic effect, so it is repetition. There are more than one figure of speech in the first line. I hope you all are writing. The first one is repetition because the word turn is repeated for poetic effect. Second figure of speech is alliteration because the letter T is repeated in turn and die. So, second figure of speech, alliteration. Third figure of speech in the same line is apostrophe because you are talking to an unknown person. You are not talking to any particular person. You are talking to an unknown person. That is any person reading this poem. You are talking to that person and giving him a message. Okay, so, and the fourth figure of speech is personification because you're giving the foot the ability to or the feeling of being hasty. That hasty means hurrying. Yes, not being careful, being like hurrying and doing your things in a hasty manner. Okay. So what are they saying? When you're walking, you are in a hurry, whether you want to reach a particular place or you want to go fast, run fast, you're late. Whatever the reason may be, when you are hurrying, you are not bothered of what is there around you, what is there on the ground you're walking. And you may just, even if you see, especially a worm, you are not going to bother that you are stabbing it. So that's exactly what they're saying. Even if you are in a hurry, be a little careful and do not stamp that helpless worm. Turn your foot the other side. Okay. Now, no crush that helpless worm here. Why is a worm called as helpless? Because the worm cannot really help itself. It cannot escape from you. It cannot run away fast. Yes, so that's why it is helpless. Now here when you crush a helpless worm, you are killing it. You're taking away its life. The third line, the frame thy scornful looks deride. Here, if you see the frame here, what you're talking about is the physical form of the worm. Whether the worm is fat, whether it is black in color, looks terrible, dirty, wrinkled skin, has hair on it, or whatever the form is of the worm. When you look at it, it looks ugly. Yes, and you look at it with eyes full of hate. That's what scornful looks means, eyes full of hate. Yes, and the reason you look at it is because it is ugly, and you hate it is because it is ugly. Deride is again hate. So you look at it with hate. Even your looks are full of hate. So if you see scornful means hate and deride also means hate, so it is a figure of speech of tautology. Okay, words with similar meanings are expressed in the same sentence. Required a god to form. Now if you see the first word, required, here the letter E is omitted. Instead there is an apostrophe put in the place of E. Now such a word is called a contracted word. When you omit a letter, instead you put an apostrophe there, it's called a contracted word. In other words, you're trying to make the word a little smaller than it actually originally is. Okay, So the frame that is scornful looks deride required a god to form. So it is God who made, or that very frame that you hate, the looks of it that you hate, the form of it, the size, maybe the color, the ugliness that you hate, is has been made by God. So if God has made it, and God makes all things beautiful, God makes all things right. So who are you to criticize or to hate or dislike the creature which God has made in whatever form he may be, big, fat, ugly, dark, whatever, but God has made it, so you are no one to hate it. Next stanza. The common lord of all that move, from whom thy being flowed. So common lord means one God. Yes, one God, that is God, that is everybody is God. And all that move is means all things that are living. Generally all things that are living move. Yes, all things that have life. From whom thy being flowed. Your letter F is repeated, so alliteration. Letter F is repeated, so alliteration. So the same God made everything that moves, and it is through him that you have got life. Yes, thy being means thy existence, the very fact that you are there, you are alive, your existence is there is because God has given you that life. Okay. Again, flowed is a contracted word. If they ask you a question, write the contracted word and write the full form. Then you have to copy the word as it is, and then add ed, flowed. That would be the full form. Okay, the third line. A portion of his boundless love on that poor worm bestowed. A portion means a part, a small part of it. Boundless love. Why boundless? Boundless means endless, limitless. There is no end to his love. Yes, there is no boundaries. He doesn't think that I will love only this much or only this person. His love encases everybody who is there. Yes, so okay, and have you noticed the word his is written in capital alphabet starting with H capital. The reason being because you're talking about God. When you're talking about God, the alphabet will always start, the first letter will always be in capital. Okay, so his love is boundless, endless, limitless. Okay, and from this a small portion he has bestowed upon, means blessed or given as a gift to this poor little worm. So bestowed means given as a gift. Going on to the next stanza. The sun, the moon, the stars he made. Again, if you notice, the H is in capital because here the he, the person you are talking about, is God. So H is capital. Now here also there are more than one figures of speech. First thing, it is an alliteration because the letter S is repeated. Then the sun, the moon, the stars, the sun is the most powerful. The moon is not so powerful, but it still gives light, and the stars are very, very tiny. So there the words are arranged in descending order. So it is anti-climax. Words are arranged in descending order. So it is anti-climax. Also, the words are not in the proper prose order. What is a proper prose order? It is an inversion. So the proper prose order is he made the sun, the moon and the stars. So inversion, it is not in the proper prose order. The proper prose order is he made the sun, the moon and the stars. Okay, next line. To all his creatures free. So again you will see H is in capital because his is God's. Okay, God's creatures. He has given free the use of the sun, the moon and the stars. Everything that he made in fact is for us to be used freely. And spreads over earth the grassy blade for worms as well as thee. Now again over is a contracted word, and grassy blade is the grass, blades of grass. Yes, the whole earth is full of grass. Now for whom? This is for not only you and me, but also for the worms, where they can roam around freely. Okay, now if you see the word the, Thee, this is an archaic word. Archaic means old English, Archiac, archaic word, and it means you, you. So you may get a question, pick all the archaic words and write their modern meaning. So that's you'll have to write the word the and then write modern meaning as you. Okay, last answer. Let them enjoy their day, their lowly bliss received. So let them enjoy their day. Letter T is repeated, so alliteration. Their lowly bliss, letter L is repeated, so again alliteration. Now bliss means happiness. So received means to get, and lowly bliss. So they don't mean something very low. They mean they require very less to make them happy. If you look at a worm, what does the worm need or what does the worm require? It just requires to be left alone, not in danger, and have sufficient food to eat. Right? That's the only thing the worm requires, and it is happy when it gets just this much. Whereas if you look at us the other way around, you will find that even though we have much more, maybe much more than we require, maybe we have much more than just food, much more than just clothes, we have a house, but we are never happy. If we have a small house, we want a bigger house. If we have a cycle, we want a motorcycle, and this never ends. We are never satisfied with what we have. That is why we are never happy with what we have. Whereas if you look at the little worm, it requires so little to be happy. Yes, so what he is saying is, the poet is saying, they require so little to be happy and they are enjoying their day with the little that they have. So leave them alone, do not hurt them or do not harm them. Oh, do not lightly take away the life thou canst not give. Now do not take away. He could have just said do not take away. Why did he say lightly take away? Lightly means without a thought, without even thinking twice. Yes, it happens very often to us also. If we see a spider, we see a worm, we see any insect, we just instinctively kill it. Yes, we do not think that that insect also is a living creature made by the same God that made you and me. And especially if that creature is not harming you, there's no need to kill it. You can just maybe drive it away or pick it up and put it out of the house. There's no need to kill it. Okay, so that's why he's saying lightly means without a second thought. You're not even thinking before taking away the life of that creature. Now you do not have the right to do that. Why? Because the life thou canst not give. You cannot give that life back to him even if you want to. Or you have not even given that life. Forget about giving it back. When you have not given him life, it is God who has given him life. You have no right to take away something that you have not given. Okay, so that's what he's trying to say, that you cannot take away life without a thought. You have to be careful in what you do. See the last line, two words, thou and canst. They are both archaic words, and thou means you, canst is cannot. Okay, so I hope you all have understood the whole poem and got the message the poet is trying to give, that do not take away the life of any creature. Not here he's just talking of a worm, but they are trying to tell you of any creature unless it's really necessary or unless maybe you are in harm, in danger. Only then, because you have not given him the life, so you have no right to take away that person's or that creature's life. Okay, you will do the first exercise in this, that is write the archaic words. Yes, the first one, die means you, being means existence, existence, bestowed means blessings or blessed or given as a gift, thee again means you, thou also you, and canst means cannot. Okay, so you will now write the poem, write the figures of speech and do that first exercise as a homework. Okay, hope you all will have a good day and enjoy yourself. After doing the homework, you can rest. Okay, thank you.